Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanitarian Horizons, Christina DiArcangelo Unveiled. And I am so excited today to have my friend and colleague Courtney on with me to talk about some pretty serious topic at hand. I'm going to pass the baton over to you, Courtney, so you can introduce yourself. And the topic that we're going to be talking to everybody about today is addiction and what happens to a person during the addiction process and where you are today. So welcome, Courtney.
Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate you. Everyone, I'm Courtney Burkepile. I'm 39 years old. I'm from Ohio. In my 20s, for about off and on for 12 years, I battled cancer. And during that battle, I had to take pain medications for my symptoms. And I ended up getting addicted to the pain medication. And the addiction would grow and it would get worse and worse and worse. I couldn't get control of it. And towards the end, I was so hopeless. I couldn't stop. And so
So
once,
could I just, I'm going to, because this will be a conversation, so I'm going to interject. So you were diagnosed in your 20s with cancer. And as a result of having cancer, one of the side effects for everybody that's listening to understand is that a lot of times cancer patients have a lot of other palliative care issues. One of the palliative care issues that's a really big one is pain. So this was pre-medical cannabis and CBD and things like that people were using to help with pain, which everybody knows that's a lot of what medical cannabis patients use it for is for pain. So you did not have those types of alternative medicines available. You were listening to your doctor because obviously your doctor could tell based on your vitals and what you had advised the doctor that you were in extreme amounts of pain. So they prescribed you the pain medicine. And as we know, and I don't know if all of our viewers and listeners know this, but a lot of times what happens, and not to make it seem like Courtney is a poster child for this, but I've spoken about this with respect to my mother and brother when I've talked about addiction before in previous podcast episodes. What happens is the brain changes when you take these kinds of medicines. So, of course, you became addicted. You had a high pain threshold because of the fact that you were a cancer patient and you were in active treatment. In other words, you were actively battling cancer. So, you were taking the medicines as prescribed by your physician. And unfortunately, this isn't to blame the physicians, but to unfortunately, you became addicted. And when that happened, you spiraled, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you were doing perhaps during the addicted times so people can understand this isn't something that you chose to do. It's not like you went to the street one day and said, you know what, I'd like to get some oxy off the street or whatever, right? This wasn't the case. You unfortunately had cancer. You had to help that symptom of pain. I'm a pain patient. I have two autoimmune diseases, as everyone knows. So I also have to take something for pain. I don't take pain medicines because I have access to other things, thankfully, because we're further along. But that's what happened. So now you are following the advice of your doctor, you're taking the medicine, and you're very addicted. And you have a child. You're a single mom. You're trying to raise your kid. You're sick as a dog with the cancer, and you're addicted.
My addiction started because of the underlying cancer diagnosis that resulted in pain management of treatment.
Perhaps you could just talk about when you were actively taking the pain medicines and you are now actively hooked, you were addicted. What was life like? Let's talk about what life was like.
So when I was going through my battle with cancer and taking the pain medication for pain, at the beginning I was taking it correctly, but then I started to notice that it took away the pain, but it also took away what I was feeling. Like I was scared. I was scared to death.
Anxiety.
It took that all the way, and I was scared for my daughter. Like I was afraid I was going to die and leave her. Like I couldn't handle those emotions. I couldn't handle those thoughts. So I noticed that the medication would numb me. So I started overtaking them, abusing them. nobody knew. I was good at hiding it. And this is so embarrassing, but there's a few times where
You don't have to be embarrassed. It's okay. This is not your fault. You became addicted because you got sick with cancer. And it's important for people. There's a lot of people out there, Courtney. You know
Mhm,
about my mother and brother. We've talked about that. You've seen that stuff before, prior to this podcast
mhm,
that we're shooting today. But you shouldn't be embarrassed because you can help other people. And that's why we're doing this podcast, is so that
mhm,
you can explain to people, this is how I was feeling, and not to feel like there's no hope, because there is hope. You're here today.
mhm.
So don't feel embarrassed. You shouldn't be embarrassed.
So I'll keep going. During that, where I started overtaking the pills, at the beginning, it would be like 3 or 4 pills. And then it would basically get to like 20 pills. And then, because my body would get used to it. And then 40 pills at a time, like a
Oh my
lot.
God. What would happen, because your prescription only
I'll tell you.
allows, okay.
I would run out and I would go through withdrawal all the time. My body would go through withdrawal all the time. And I would just go through it because I wanted the pain medicine. Like I would be waiting for my next script, like, like on edge. And I've also overdosed so many times. I can't count how many times, right in front of my little girl. That's how bad addiction gets.
Yes. And it's not because you chose to do this. This was something that you couldn't help. And, the overdoses were as a result. And you're lucky that during
Mhm.
those times when you were going through withdrawal, that you didn't have a heart attack or a stroke, because that's what happens a lot when patients come off of these, because you're supposed to cut it down, right? You can't come off them cold turkey because of what can happen
Mhm.
adversely to you as a patient. So you're very lucky that that
Yeah,
didn't happen.
I am so lucky. Like I should not be alive. Like I should not be alive. I can't count how many times I've overdosed. It was so many times. We go to the hospital, unconscious, almost dying. They would take care of me. I'd wake up the next day, and the next day I'd be taking more pills.
Can I ask you a question about that? So the obviously the hospital knew when you came in that you
Mhm,
had overdosed, right? They did tox screens. They figured
mhm.
out, because that's custom, they do that every time you come into the hospital. They run your blood work, they see what's in your body, what's going on. At any point, did this hospital say to you, are you interested in pursuing rehab?
Not one time.
This is the same thing that happened to my brother. So my brother died 1/9/2022. The year prior to that, so the year 21, he was in the hospital around 19 times. He
Mhm,
had congestive heart failure. And the reason why he had congestive heart failure was because he had been abusing oxy for his mental health issues that he had. He was schizophrenic and he was bipolar. He was in the hospital for his heart. He even had a defibrillator 19 times in the year of 2021. And not one time did the hospital say to him, also a single parent like you were, do you think perhaps, like the social worker, they come in and talk to you every time you're in the hospital? Not one time did they
yeah.
come and ask my brother, do you think you need some help? That's why I'm asking you this question, because obviously there's a hole in healthcare. There's always a hole when it comes to mental health, as we know, but this is a pretty important thing to to drive home. So I apologize for interrupting. I just
Oh,
needed to ask you that question.
yeah. Yeah, not one time anyone asked me if I needed help. In fact, they would just ignore me. They wouldn't talk to me. They act like I was
A drug
the,
addict.
yeah.
That's what happened to my brother as well. So let's talk about the last time you overdosed. Where was your headspace? What were you thinking? What happened?
April 26, 2021. So basically, I was at my wit's end. I was tired of being taking pills. It was to the point that it wasn't even making me high. It was not numbing me anymore. I wasn't even feeling normal. I was always withdrawing and I was always trying to take all these pills. Eventually your body gets numb to it. And so I was hopeless and I just felt like I can't stop. I can't stop. So I just want to die. So that morning I took a bunch of pills. Like I took a whole bottle of muscle relaxers, like a half a bottle of Benadryl. I took like 20 ibuprofens. Like I was serious. And that morning I was at my mom's and I was like, oh, after I took it, I was like, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna find me dead. So I got my shoes on real quick. Everyone's asleep. I get my car and I drive down to the beach and I walk on the sand and I just lay down and I just about die. And what happened was I was unconscious and it's early in the morning and a ranger walks by and finds me, and he calls 911, and I'm unconscious and I'm not breathing, and they rush me to the hospital. I'm in a coma.
Sorry, take your time. I know this is tough.
I'm in a coma on life support with tubes everywhere trying to help me breathe. The doctors are saying we don't know if she's gonna ever wake up. Like, she's probably gonna die because it was so much that I took. On the third day, he was talking to my family saying, well, we only have 3 more days for the medical insurance to keep her alive. We need someone to make a decision to pull her plug. And then that day I woke up.
Thank God, because you were a fighter. At the end of the day, Courtney, you could have died on that beach. You didn't. You
Mm-mm.
didn't die. You had a reason to live. You just got to the point where you were hopeless. Like this, what? I can't continue living my life like this. I can't continue doing this. I need to do better, but I don't know what to do. I have no resources. There's nobody that can help me. My family doesn't know how bad it is because I'm hiding it. So it's
Mhm.
not like I could ask them for help. And they're not, no offense, most family members are not medical doctors or psychiatrists. They don't know what to do. So you're a fighter. And so you should be proud of yourself because you didn't let yourself go. You could
Mhm.
have, whether, not to turn this into a religious thing, for people who don't believe in God or whatever. I'm not trying to make it that, but the point is there was an intended purpose for you to still be here.
Mhm.
And you're
Yeah.
here today and you are sharing your story. As uncomfortable and upsetting this is for you, you're being very brave to
Mhm.
do this today. You will be able to help others because there's people out there that don't know what they want to do and feel desperate. So
Yeah.
hopefully this will give them the strength to say, wait, I need to ask for help. I need to ask to go to rehab so that I can get some help so that I don't end up dead. Because that's what happens with addiction. Most people
Yeah.
aren't here anymore. My brother, yeah,
Yeah.
it says on his obituary that COVID killed him, but it was the congestive
Mhm.
heart failure. And his heart was only working at 18% when he walked into the hospital with COVID because he killed his heart because of the abuse of oxycodone. Then he was
Mhm.
using meth, heroin, all kinds of horrible things that he got addicted to, not because he thought it would be a fun time to be addicted to drugs, but it was because of his mental health. And he was trying to stop. And also the voices, right? That's part of his mental health. He was trying to stop that. He never got the help
Mhm.
and he's dead. And he died at 43. He turned 43 in the hospital and died shortly thereafter. You're still alive.
Oh.
You're still
Mhm.
here to be able to talk about it. And you're a very
Mhm.
strong person to be able to sit here and recount what happened. So don't put
Mhm.
yourself down about this or feel embarrassed because you're going to help so many other people. And that was why I wanted you to come on today, was to share what happened so that your intention is to help people. You told me that. So I said,
Mhm.
okay, come on the podcast. You're not a seasoned podcast person. I was not a seasoned podcast person when I became a podcaster. So you're doing your best. And I just want to thank you for coming on today because this took a lot for you to come on and talk about this.
And I just want to say that addiction, it leads you to that. Like, addiction is so powerful. It is manipulative, it is controlling, it takes your entire life and it
Yes,
just can,
it
and I
does.
had no control. Mhm.
But now look where you are.
Yeah.
You're
And
healthy.
yes, I'm so
You're
proud of myself. When I woke up that day, I was really angry that I was alive. But when a few months passed, everything settled, and I was like, I finally felt like I was happy that I was alive again, and I wanted to change my life. Like, I didn't want to live like that anymore. I had to go to rehab and all the things
mm-hmm.
that really helped me, and I'm in a program right now that I go to meetings every week to help me stay clean. And so it took me wanting to change. Like, I couldn't change for anyone. I tried
Right.
changing for my daughter. I would relapse all the time, and I love her to death.
Of course, she's your child. I mean,
Like, with addicts and alcoholics, you can't make them
no.
change. They have to want it.
Well, we're already at the end of our time. I told you it would go by fast.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap up. Is there anything final that you would like to say to everyone about this?
Yeah, I would like to say that when you're to that point where you're hopeless and you just feel like you can't live anymore and you want to die, like, you seriously want to take your own life, please reach out to someone and ask for help. And I just want to help. I just want people to know that people care and people do want to help you.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this with me and being vulnerable. That's not easy, and it's triggering because you're going back in time and then where you are today. So it's a lot. And I really appreciate it. And I'm thankful that you wanted to talk about this so that there's other people that we can help. And, obviously, addiction is very close to my heart. My mom, we didn't talk too much about her, but she overdosed before. Also, her mental health was really quite substantial. And at the end of her life, she was addicted again because the doctor gave her painkillers, gabapentin, and all kinds of things. Even though I told them not to, they did not listen to me. And I had power of attorney. They didn't care. They did what they did. And now she's dead.
Yeah.
So you're not dead. You're here to live. You're here to do great things. And I know you will, Courtney. So thank you so much for coming on today and joining me today and talking about all these things. And as we always say, thank you for listening. Remember, I am Christina DiArcangelo. Bye-bye for now.